Ranking member of the House Financial Services Committee, Congressman Spencer Bachus of Alabama, will be asking some of those questions after he answers some of ours. Great to see you, Congressman. I know
Joe,
you heard,
glad to be with you.
I know you heard some of the commentary. So I guess that won't be in the question, whether you flew down on a corporate jet. What will be in the question?
Well, I think they came in hybrid cars, Joe. I hope we'll sort of not spend our time pointing fingers, and we'll spend our time sort of looking forward. And one of the questions I'll ask them is about some of this merger and acquisition, where they're putting the money on, say, the Pfizer deal as opposed to lending. I'm not, of course, you don't want to micromanage the banks. Yeah. I also want to know how safe the taxpayer's investment is and when the taxpayer gets their money back. And then I would like to hear from them, where do we go from here? I heard you all talking about yesterday's speech, and it was a speech. It wasn't a detailed plan, so there's no more certainty this morning than there was yesterday morning.
You're going to hear that I guess they use the word fungible a lot, and that's not a bad thing, that you need to spray something on and get rid of it. That's that all the funds in a bank, you can't really keep track of where they're going. So, you're going to say, did the TARP money go out in loans? They're going to say, yeah, we've increased lending, but you can't tie one fund to the other, right? I mean, Congress can't manage these banks, Congressman.
No, and they shouldn't be. And one thing, the way you stop that probably is by not investing in it. But at the same time, as you know, back in September they were facing some solvency issues, and it wasn't probably the best thing to do. But I'm not sure we had a choice. What
if they make money lending to Pfizer for that acquisition, the way banks do, and it makes more sense than forced lending to some homeowner that shouldn't be buying a house anyway?
Well, if it's a solvency question, then that's right. You don't want them to make bad loans. I will say this: there's a lot of AAA paper out there, though, that is going begging. And I do think this. Yesterday, the Federal Reserve made an announcement that I think was much more important than anything that happened at the Treasury. And they said we're going to buy $1 trillion worth of term asset-backed securities, AAA paper. And I think that's going to help. I think that liquidity is going to help. Long term, are they going to be able to continue to borrow trillions of dollars? That's worrisome. But now, I think we have a deflationary problem, and we need to put liquidity into the system. And I believe you do that through the Fed, not through putting money in the bank.
You could be cynical if you were out in the viewing public with a lot of the hearings at Congress that seem to be some grandstanding and does it increase transparency? Are there some good you're convinced will come out of this?
Oh, absolutely. But the good won't come because Congress will see it. It'll see the economists will see it, and people will start asking questions. And some of the guests on your program, I listen to that, and at times I learn more there than I do in a congressional hearing, because people are really trying to not tell you.
That's going to be in a promo. It's going to be on a soundbite of one of our promos, Congressman.
You may see that on the annual report.
Yeah, you may see that.
Yeah, thank you.
What about the bill's going to happen either way? Do you and your colleagues just not want to own it?
Oh, it's a terrible bill, Joe. We're going to spend in one piece of legislation twice as much as we did in the New Deal, and that's in inflation-adjusted money. And it's not going to be the private sector spending. It's not going to be people going out and buying houses or cars. It's going to be the government taking the money. You go through that page after page. You're going to give $1 billion to this agency and $2 billion to that. And some of it's to build new government buildings. Others for the government to buy equipment. It's a massive transfer of wealth. We're going to grow government like we did in the New Deal now, and we're going to grow it at a massive rate. It's going to cost every American family $7,000. And I heard last night there was a lady saying, I sure hope I get this because, I'm going to get $1,000 out of this. Her family's going to pay $7,000. It's not the way to go. The way to go is for the Fed and maybe the Treasury to add liquidity into the system and for banks to start lending, not for the government to grow. It's absurd.
But my question to you is, if the banks, you want the banks to start lending, but nobody wants to borrow if there's no business out there. So, why is anybody going to borrow if the economy is still in a deep recession?
I believe they're scared and they want certainty. That's why yesterday, if the Fed had come, or not the Fed or the Treasury had come and said, this is what we're going to do in the next 2 or 3 months, if they address the bad asset question. These illiquid assets, now they've renamed them. I don't know if y'all noticed, they're now legacy assets. I mean, boy, some PR guy gave them that. They used to be toxic assets. Now they're legacy assets. They're almost to be sought after. But something needs to be done about those illiquid assets. But was anything done yesterday? No.
No.
One of the questions I'll ask these bankers is, why don't you set up your own bad bank instead of asking the taxpayers to come in and bail you out by them buying your bad assets at a much higher price than the market?
That's how the Germans want to do it.
But how would they? I mean, if they don't want the marks that are out there now, if they don't want to sell them for 22 cents on the dollar or whatever they can get.
But they need to address that. They need to, because that's uncertainty in the market. In fact, I believe that the banks are sitting around waiting to know if they're going to get a better deal from the government before they clean up their balance sheets.
I feel like we're back in the election, though, Congressman. There's two sides. One side says, we need tax cuts to create jobs, and that's the ideology of that side. The other side says spending is stimulus, and we tried tax cuts before. That's why we're here now, because of the past 8 years. And then the other side says, well, all this spending has been backing up for the past 8 years that you weren't able to do then. And here we're just back in this mudslinging ideology going back and forth. It's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah, Joe, did we do better under Kennedy and Reagan, or did we do better under Carter? The tax cuts take a little time to take hold, but a lot of this government spending was going to take 3 or 4 years. And, hey, we want to go to green. We want to go to solar. But, there's nothing in this bill about nuclear. And everybody agrees. Even the founder of Greenpeace says if you're going to have energy independence, if you can ever have it, you've got to go nuclear. So it's just a sort of a foolish grab bag of liberal government ideas, and they're using this crisis to do a lot of things that American people would rebel about in a normal time.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're going to hear, the president say, well, I won, and this has been put to rest back in November.
Yeah, he did win, and he's told us that, and so has the Democratic leadership. And I can guarantee you that we're not having discussions. There was a little of that in the Senate, but look, tax cuts, that means the people spend it, you leave it in their pockets. Government or people. We're the people. In fact, we're going to have a hearing today. We're going to try to give them advice on what to do about the banking system. We did that about health care. We did that about K-12. Everything the government manages or gets more involved in, they mess up. I mean, that's why we in America, despite everything here, we have been very successful. We're not socialists.
I know. We've got to give, that every once in a while, it's going to happen for a couple of years here, Congressman. Maybe we're going to try that for a while, because it's in, supposedly the other stuff didn't work.
The bank's record right now is a little
Let me say this to Carla, Becky, and all of you. Look, the government, the Fed needs to do something. They need to do something bold, and whether it's with mortgages or purchases of these mortgage-backed securities, they need to do it, and they need to do it now. And it needs to be, maybe $1 trillion or $2 trillion. But let's just not, let's not grow government.
Well,
it's an argument for government intervention at the same time.
Yep. Congressman, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon, hopefully. Coming up at 8:30.